100 years since the death of architect Antoni Gaudí, his vision, the Sagrada Família, is almost complete. We're marking several milestones on today's podcast: Gaudí's 100th anniversary, the inauguration by the Pope, of course, of the Sagrada Familia's giant Tower of Jesus, but also, just as important in my humble opinion, episode number 250 of Filling the Sink. So thanks for listening and watching. The eyes of the world were on Barcelona this month, June 10th to be precise. A spectacular light show, fireworks display, music, drones, you name it, all rounded off the Pope's blessing of the Tower of Jesus. The central tower, topped off by a three-dimensional cross, is the Sagrada Familia's tallest structure, 172.5 metres high, making it the tallest building in Barcelona and the tallest church in the world. Contrary to some reports that I've personally seen and heard from supposedly reputable media outlets, the Sagrada Familia is not finished. That's fake news. It remains the world's most famous building site. I don't know who came up with that line first, but I do like it. So on today's podcast, we're taking a look at the life, work and death of Catalan architect Antoni Gaudí, with a particular focus on his masterpiece, the Sagrada Família, or Holy Family. It's a pleasure to be joined today by Marta Otzet, Director of Culture and Social and Educational Outreach at the Basilica of the Sagrada Família. Hello, Marta. Welcome to Filling the Sink.
Hello. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. Now, many of our viewers, many of our listeners will, of course, have visited the Sagrada Família, I'm sure, at various stages of completion. But for someone who's never been, or maybe hasn't been in 10 years, what is the Sagrada Família like today? What strikes you as you go in?
I think that Sagrada Família today, it's a special building, but not only because of it is a big space and it is original and it is different. I think that it's special because when people come, they can have a different experience. I mean, when Gaudí dreamed about this project, he connects lots of things that normally are not connected in a simple building. And so he had this view to make a place where you can find architecture, nature, light, spirituality, and all these things together become something special for the experience of all these visitors that visit us and have this special moment.
It is a remarkable experience, and you mentioned the light there. The light is one of the things, I think, I visited the Sagrada Familia when I was very young and then went back more recently, and that was one of the things that had really struck me the more recent visit, you know. So this month the Pope visited the Sagrada Familia, celebrated Mass, a very grand occasion. We saw hundreds of singers and almost as many bishops, and there were dignitaries there too, of course. We had the Spanish King and Queen, we had Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez and the Catalan President Salvador Illa. After the Mass, on the 100th anniversary of the death of Antoni Gaudí, Pope Leo XIV blessed and inaugurated the Basilica's central and tallest tower, the Tower of Jesus. What did this moment mean for the Sagrada Familia and for everyone who has been involved in bringing Gaudí's vision to life?
It was a deeply emotional moment because it represented the culmination of a vision that began 144 years ago. No? And for everyone who was working on the project or seeing the project directly, living the project, no? the experience, I think that it was connecting people through this building and through this tower, but also through the meaning of this tower, that at the end it's light, it's peace, it's universal people, no? And I think that this moment with light, music, and these small lamps that people had, no? I don't know, they were creating an atmosphere. It's not only a building, it represents the human values, it represents faith, and it represents also something that it's asking lots of things to everyone.
Yeah, and we saw that the impact that it had globally, because it was covered by international media all over the world. Loads of videos of the event, and the fireworks went viral. Millions and millions of views. Why do you think that this resonates with people, not just in Barcelona or Catalonia, but far beyond?
I don't know. I think that there happened different things that connected with people. I mean, when Gaudí appears next to the tower, it was something really emotional for people, because we wanted, when we planned this, we wanted to say thank you. Thank you to Gaudí, that had imagined this project, had dreamed about this project. But thank you also to all these people that through all these years has been possible this project.
And the Sagrada Familia, so it's now reached its highest point, 172.5 meters. And I've read that that particular height was picked because Gaudí didn't want the basilica to exceed the height of Montjuic. He said that human creations shouldn't surpass God's natural creations. Do we know, is there any truth in that, or is that genuine?
I think that Gaudí was really humble, and he had this vision of the relationship between humanity and nature. And as Gaudí saw the God's creation as the maximum creation, he didn't want to separate this, and he wanted to respect what God did with the nature. And it's because of that the Jesus Tower is a little bit below Montjuic. It's because it expresses this idea of human beings can create beauty, but should remain always aware, that they are part of something that are greater or bigger.
Yeah. And the focus, of course, has been on this newly completed tower, but there's actually eventually going to be 18 towers. Gaudí only saw one completed in his lifetime, the first one, the Tower of St. Barnabas, which was finished in 1925, just a year before his death. I wanted to ask you, Marta, why 18 towers? And also more generally, the Sagrada Familia, it's filled with symbolism, isn't it? We can't cover it all here, but what are some symbols and stories that the Sagrada Familia tells that we could look out for if we were visiting it?
I think that one of the most brilliant things that Gaudí did, it's about the storytelling. He was trying to explain a story, and then he had three inspirations: one, the Bible; the other, the liturgy about the meaning of each single thing; and finally, the nature. So it's because of that he wanted to do a stone Bible. And you will have in the Sagrada, we will have 18 towers, and each tower has these symbolisms about the Christian faith and the first or the more important figures. So we have one for Jesus, then one for the Virgin Mary, 4 for the evangelist, and 12 for the apostles. And then we have these three facades that at the end are explaining about life, about the joy of life, about the moment of you die, like a human person you die, as Jesus did. And finally, this main facade, the glory facade, about your belief about what's happening after all of that. But the more brilliant thing is all this storytelling that's trying to narrate about the Bible, about the figures that represent the Bible, and it's because of that, this symbolism.
A Bible made out of stone.
Yes, exactly.
Like you said, that's a nice way to think about it. Well, Marta, we're going to continue this chat very soon. First, though, we're going on a Gaudí mini tour of Barcelona. Our guide is Catalan news reporter Cillian Shields.
Today we're taking a walk through Barcelona, chasing the ghost of Antoni Gaudí. I'm Cillian Shields, and I'll be your tour guide today. Mine is one of the hundreds of chins raised up with our gaze fixed on the marvellous Casa Batlló, one of Gaudí's most famous works, here on the glamorous Passeig de Gràcia Boulevard. Now, most of these people think that we're looking up at a simple building, at a simple piece of architecture, but I happen to know different. I happen to know that we're looking up at the national identity of Catalonia brought to life in a building. We're looking up at a dragon. Now, to explain this, we have to go back to April 23rd of every year. April 23rd is Sant Jordi's Day, St. George in English, and Sant Jordi is the patron saint of Catalonia. The myth goes that this brave knight saved the beautiful princess from the wrath of a terrifying dragon, and he used his spear to slay the dragon, and from his blood bloomed bright red roses. And that is why we gift each other roses every April 23rd. Books are another story. But the dragon motif is very important in the national story of Catalonia, and Gaudí knew this too. Looking up at Casa Batlló, we can see the dragon's scales across the whole facade in this shiny, colourful tiles that adorns its front. We can see the dragon's spine over the roof. We can see Sant Jordi's spear in the tower and cross on top of the building over to the left-hand side. And we can see the brute's bones in the interior columns across the facade. This marvellous work is the mythical story of Catalonia brought to life through architecture. Walking up just another couple of blocks, our path is paved by these extraordinary hexagonal street tiles, featuring different marine shapes, a starfish, algae, bubbles, a fossil. To see the full interweaving pattern, you need to look at 7 tiles altogether. And don't miss how the depth of the relief play with the shadows, bringing everything to life. These interweaving patterns brings to mind a quote from Antoni Gaudí: "The straight line belongs to man, the curved line to God." Now, this philosophy is displayed perfectly in this building behind me now, the next stop in our tour, Casa Milà, La Pedrera, also known as the Stone Quarry. In this surrealist apartment building, Antoni Gaudí made sure that there are no straight lines throughout the whole building. There aren't too many straight lines in nature, and nature was one of Gaudí's great sources of inspiration. The facade of La Pedrera looks like rippling waves, while the railings are like branches, leaves, vines. Everything is modelled on natural forms. And it's not just the outside. Inside too, the windows, the door frames and the floor plans all avoid strict right angles, making the building feel like a single continuous shape rather than a grid of rooms. And now we've come to an otherwise nondescript part of the busy city centre. This is Gran Via, one of the main avenues that cuts right across Barcelona city. And it's a spot that few Gaudí tourists would come to visit. But perhaps soon they might, because just this month, June 2026, marking the centenary of Gaudí's death, did the city council install this plaque marking the location where he was hit by a tram, ultimately leading to his death some days later. 100 years ago, tram lines used to go up and down this street on Gran Via. They no longer do. But a century ago, Antoni Gaudí was on his daily walk from the Sant Felip Neri church in the Old Town up to the Sagrada Família, where he would spend all day working, when 2 trams were crossing paths. Gaudí stepped back to avoid one, but was hit by the other, moving in the opposite direction. Now, why didn't the city rush to the rescue of one of its most important, one of its most famous, and one of its most beloved sons? Because nobody recognised him. In the last years of Gaudí's life, he had become obsessed with the Sagrada Família, becoming more and more withdrawn from society and hyper-focused on his masterpiece, which would take more than another century to complete. He lived an almost monastic, ascetic life. He let his appearance go. His hair and beard grew long. His clothes became worn. The city mistook him for a beggar, and nobody felt the need to rush to this man's care. When help eventually arrived, he was taken to a clinic for the poor, rather than one of the more illustrious hospitals that could have potentially saved his life with more acute medical care. 3 days later, Gaudí died in hospital. He was 73 years old, and at that point he had given more than 4 decades to the Sagrada Família, more than half of his lifetime. He was coming up with designs so grand that now, over a century later, Barcelona is still working on them.
Cillian Shields there on dragons, curves, and the tragic end to Gaudí's remarkably productive creative life. Going back to when it all started, Antoni Gaudí y Cornet was born on the 25th of June, 1852, in the town of Reus in southern Catalonia, or perhaps in the nearby village of Riudoms, according to some sources. He studied architecture in Barcelona during a period of rapid industrial growth in Catalonia and also cultural change, a transformation in which he played a significant role. He was a master of modernisme, Catalan modernism or Art Nouveau, but he went beyond trends or movements or styles to create a unique and new architectural language all of his own. Marta, what about the man behind the architecture? What kind of person was Antoni Gaudí?
I think that he was a complex and fascinating person. He was a brilliant architect, but also he was an observer, he was a researcher, and he was someone who was really connected with nature and faith. I think that this could be a description about his personality. I think that probably he was really disciplined and very demanding with himself, probably. But I think that he was humble. I think that this is the strong characteristic or adjective that we can say. And I think that there is a really nice thing that he was trying to understand with small things. He was researching or observing what could these small things reveal about universal principles. And probably this is one of the greatest things that he understood about life and nature, and he applied to his architecture.
And you mentioned his faith, his religion. How did his spirituality shape what he was trying to create, his buildings, his works?
I think that when he dedicated probably part of his life to Sagrada, is because he was searching for truth. And so I think that he was trying to discover with architecture how he could approach to the divine. Probably you can understand how important was this for him, because he spent like 40 years of his life only in Sagrada, and the last 12 years living there. And so as he knew that he could not finish this building, he had to understand what he wanted to give to the next generations. And the most important thing is that he achieved that 5 generations after has continued this project. And I think that because of that he built only one facade instead of building like a normal building, like for the
foundations first and then building it all up gradually.
No, he did a facade because probably he thought, if I don't do that, nobody would understand my project and my dream.
Gaudí was also a proud Catalan. He wasn't politically active, but he stood up for Catalan culture and language, and famously refused to speak Spanish to King Alfonso XIII when the monarch visited the Sagrada Familia. How would you say that Catalonia shaped Gaudí's work and his vision?
I think that Catalonia gave him a cultural environment, and he was also really connected with craftsmanship, and so innovation, materials, these tools that he discovered in Catalonia made him a really special architect too. I mean, he wasn't only in the world of ideas. He was connected to the people, to the Mediterranean culture, and so I think that this did the difference, because when he was studying at the university, when he finished his studies, he went to discover craft in different places. I mean, he was like curious about how you made the things happen. And I think that the fact that he was the son of a coppersmith made the difference too, because he was always connected with hands and how you made things. And his origins in Riudoms or Reus also made the difference. And the light is one of the important things that he was always worried about. And it's a Mediterranean light. And you can see this in Sagrada Familia too. You can see that the light is really important for him. First, because he was from a place where the light is really spectacular, but then also because he realized that about light, he could express faith.
Gaudí's vision was undoubtedly extraordinary, but bringing these ideas to life required something else, someone willing to support them financially. And in many cases, that person was Eusebi Güell, one of Catalonia's most influential industrialists. Here's Anna Glass.
Antoni Gaudí dedicated his life to his work, never taking a wife, never having a family, but creating a legacy that is strong 100 years after his death. One thing he did have was an important friendship with Eusebi Güell, and while the skill and creativity of Gaudí defined the legacy, most of these works wouldn't have been possible without his main patron and eventual friend. Even as a very well-established businessman and one of the richest men in Spain at the time, Güell's name is remembered because of his relationship with the famous architect. Güell was quick to hire Gaudí after seeing a display case that the architect had created for the World Exhibition in Paris. Gaudí's first project for Güell was to design the gate around his estate, the Finca Güell. The project included the boundary walls, stables, and other small buildings surrounding Güell's estate. From 1883 to 1887, Gaudí worked on building the intricate property line. A couple of years later, Gaudí received his first true commission from Güell, the Palau Güell, a home for the businessman and his family in the neighborhood of the Raval. From 1886 to 1890, Gaudí built a city mansion with every kind of luxury, with a simple and brilliant facade that contrasts the elegant and intricate interior of the house. Güell continuously hired Gaudí for his projects. In 1898, he started on another one, the Church for Colonia Güell. Colonia Güell was a village created for workers of Güell's textile factory, so they could have their own social and economic lives. When the church for that village became too small for the growing population, Güell called on his friend to design a new one. Gaudí was only able to finish the crypt of the church before Güell ran into issues financing the project and it was abandoned. Gaudí worked on the crypt from 1898 until 1914, while he was also working on the Sagrada Família. It is now thought that the crypt and original design for the church was the first experiment for the Sagrada Família. Gaudí was kept busy with projects, getting another commission from Güell while he was working on the crypt. Between 1895 and 1897, Gaudí worked on Bodegas Güell, a multifunctional building. The building required a residence for the Güell family, hunting lodges for guests, a chapel, and wine cellars for Güell's mind to mature. Gaudí started his final project for Güell in 1900, an ambitious business decision to develop a residential area away from the city. Güell purchased 170,000 square meters of land and worked with Gaudí to design the houses for those who purchased a plot of land, though they were only ever able to sell 2 of the 60 plots available. Even though the project was a failure, Gaudí and Güell lived together here until 1918 when Güell died. Gaudí continued to live there until 1925. Now the property is the famous Park Güell and is visited by millions every year. Gaudí completed many projects in his lifetime, and for a number of them that weren't commissioned by Güell, the businessman was involved nonetheless. One example of this was the commission for the gate for the Miralles property. Gaudí was introduced to the family because Güell was close personal friends with the family. Güell was also responsible for introducing Gaudí to 2 of the commissioners for 3 of the projects Gaudí completed outside of Catalonia. Though Güell and Gaudí's relationship was important, Gaudí dedicated his life to his work and has countless memorable works that don't involve Güell.
Anna Glass on Gaudí and Güell, and Anna has prepared a map and article on catalannews.com with all of Gaudí's buildings on there, so do check that out. I don't think we've mentioned so far that 7 Gaudí works are actually UNESCO World Heritage Sites, part of the Sagrada Família, including the Nativity facade and crypt, but also Park Güell, Palau Güell, Casa Milà, Casa Vicens, Casa Batlló, and the only one outside Barcelona, the crypt at Colonia Güell. Marta, when we look at that and, just listening to that list of remarkable buildings, how it is just an incredible list. It's not just the Sagrada Família, is it? There's all these other amazing works as well. How has Gaudí shaped the way that people think about architecture even today, 100 years later?
I think that Gaudí changed the way we think about architecture because he showed that structure and beauty can be united. I mean, he didn't separate engineering from art. And probably many contemporary architects are inspired by this ability to find solutions through nature, but with experimentation and with creativity and with a really high engineering structures. But I think that his legacy is not only these buildings that he created, but the questions he asked. Every time you discover new things, when you try to understand better his architecture, every day you discover new things. And this is his authentic legacy. He used geometry into architecture. And this geometry was known at that time, but nobody was using geometry and nature to ask how they could do something really special in architecture. And it's because of that when you get inside the basilica and you see all the spaces, you can feel like if you were in a forest.
Yeah, all those pillars that go up and up and up and then branch out.
Exactly. And inside there is a really, really clever engineering study. But outside you can see beauty and you can see something really organic, something natural. And I think that this combination is one of his brilliant portraits.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Gaudí's work it's such a huge part of Catalonia's and especially Barcelona's identity today. Millions of people come to the city specifically to see these buildings. Do you think Gaudí has changed the way that Barcelona sees itself and the way the rest of the world sees Barcelona?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think that Gaudí has become one of the strongest symbols of Barcelona identity. And because I think that he shows or he could understand values about creativity, imagination, or that now the city has become one of the reference of all these values.
It's an amazing thing sometimes when you're just walking down the street and you turn and then suddenly there's the Sagrada Familia or one of the other Gaudí works.
There are connections between the buildings. I mean, if you go to Casa Milà and if you go to the roof, you can see that there is a special window where you can see through this window the Sagrada Família. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was connecting these buildings and was connecting also the symbols of these buildings. And this, at the end, it's like escape room in Barcelona with all these buildings of Gaudí, where you can discover different values, different symbols, and different structures.
Yeah. The Sagrada Familia, nearly 5 million visited the church last year. A century after Gaudí's death, construction is still ongoing. It's in fact more than 140 years after work began. Why has it taken it so long? And how much of what we see today, would you say, does it actually reflect Gaudí's original vision? Can we say that?
I think that it's taken so long because it is really complex. The level of details, also the historical circumstance in every moment has made that at the end we need enough time to build this. It is true that now that we are having a high technology, we can work really fast, but at the end, our architects has to understand really well what they are doing because, as I told you, every single thing has a meaning. And so you have to understand what you are doing. And so we have been also lots of years studying his models to understand what he wanted to express. He was really obsessed about finishing a model in order to give enough information to the next generations to continue the project, and was something really important for us. But in the end, it's a really big project that you need a lot of time to finish. And the good thing is that now we are the generation that we are almost seeing the completion of the building. And
yeah, so what does remain to be completed then?
Okay, we still have important elements to complete. I think that it's a big goal for us. The main one is the glory facade. The glory facade is the main entrance, and is the facade dedicated to the glory of God, and will be more than 200 sculptures. So it's an important facade with important artistic implementation. It has to be also 4 towers. And then there are also the urban integration of the Sagrada with the bridge with the city. And so we have all these aspects that we still have to work. And we think, or we would like to think, that maybe in 12 or a little bit more, we will see this facade finished.
There's going to be a staircase, or it's planned that there'll be a staircase in the glory facade,
Yes.
but it will mean, having to get rid of flats in the adjacent blocks. So
We're still working and dialoguing with Barcelona City Council and also with the neighborhoods. I think that we are working hard all together and trying to understand what we could do and in which moment. But now is a nice moment. We are finishing the main tower, so people want to see this project finished. And I think that we will find a way.
thank you, Marta, for joining us today. That's us for today. Thanks for listening and watching. Thanks to my colleagues, Cillian Shields and Anna Glass as well. And thanks again to you, Marta. Remember, you can subscribe to Filling the Sink wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back again with another episode for you next month on Learning Catalan. Until then, from me, Lorcan Doherty, and all of us here at Catalan News, take care. Bye for now. Adeu.